Ever feel like your brain is being pulled in a million different directions? Like you re-fascinated by everything from the deepest questions of existence to how the gadgets around you actually work? If so, you might just be a modern-day Blaise Pascal. Who was he? Well, get ready, because we're about to dive into the life of one of history's most brilliant and complex minds. A man who was a mathematician, a physicist, an inventor, and a philosopher, all rolled into one. This isn't just a history lesson. It's the story of a genius who wrestled with faith, reason, and the very nature of what it means to be human. Blaise Pascal was born in Clermont-Ferrand, France in 1623. Right from the start, it was clear he was no ordinary child. He was a prodigy, plain and simple. His father, Étienne Pascal, was a tax collector and a talented mathematician himself. Seeing his son's incredible potential, he decided to homeschool him, but with a strange rule: no math until age 15. He wanted Blaise to master Latin and Greek first. But you can't keep a genius from his calling. At just 12 years old, Blaise, completely on his own, started exploring geometry. He began drawing shapes on the floor, creating his own names for them, and independently worked out that the sum of the angles in a triangle is equal to 2 right angles. When his father discovered this, he was so astonished that he gave in and handed Blaise a copy of Euclid's Elements. From that moment on, the world of mathematics had a new star. By the time he was 16, Pascal was already making waves in the academic world. He wrote a brilliant short paper on the geometry of conic sections, circles, ellipses, parabolas. It was so advanced that the great philosopher and mathematician, René Descartes, allegedly refused to believe it was written by a teenager. This work became known as Pascal's theorem, a foundational piece of projective geometry. He wasn't just solving problems. He was creating entirely new ways to look at them. This early success set the stage for a lifetime of groundbreaking mathematical work. He wasn't just good with shapes either. He was about to lay the groundwork for a field of math that affects our lives every single day: probability theory. Think about it. Weather forecasts, insurance policies, even the odds in your favorite video game, they all rely on probability. And it all started in a way with a gambling problem. A friend of Pascal's, a nobleman and an avid gambler, came to him with a question: if a game of chance is interrupted before it's finished, how do you fairly divide the stakes? This seemingly simple question led Pascal into a now famous correspondence with another brilliant mathematician, Pierre de Fermat. Together, they worked out the fundamental principles of probability theory, solving what was known as the problem of points. They figured out how to calculate expected outcomes and make predictions based on likelihood. It was revolutionary. They turned a game of chance into a science of prediction. And then there's Pascal's triangle. Even if you don't love math, you've probably seen this iconic pyramid of numbers. Each number is the sum of the 2 directly above it. While other mathematicians had described it before, Pascal was the one who thoroughly explored its properties and applications in his treatise on the arithmetical triangle. He showed how it connected to binomial coefficients, which are super important in algebra and probability and a host of other mathematical patterns. It's a beautiful, elegant structure that reveals the hidden connections within the world of numbers. It's so much more than a simple pattern. It's a key that unlocks countless mathematical secrets. But Pascal's genius wasn't confined to the abstract world of numbers and theories. He was also a practical inventor, a problem solver who wanted to make life easier. His father, as a tax collector, spent endless, tedious hours adding and subtracting long columns of figures. Seeing his father's exhaustion, the 19-year-old Pascal decided to build a machine to help. After years of work and over 50 prototypes, he created the Pascaline, one of the world's first mechanical calculators. It was a brass box filled with gears and wheels that could perform addition and subtraction automatically. While it was a mechanical marvel, it wasn't a commercial success. It was too expensive to produce and complex to operate for most people. Still, the Pascaline was a monumental achievement, a tangible proof of concept that paved the way for the calculators and computers we can't live without today. Pascal's scientific curiosity didn't stop there. He was also fascinated by physics, particularly the nature of vacuums and pressure. At the time, the prevailing scientific belief, dating back to Aristotle, was that nature abhors a vacuum, that a true vacuum was impossible. Pascal decided to test this. He conducted a series of brilliant experiments with mercury barometers. The most famous one involved having his brother-in-law carry a barometer up a mountain, the Puy de Dôme. As he ascended, the mercury level in the tube dropped, proving that air pressure was lower at higher altitudes. This demonstrated that it was the weight of the air, not some mysterious abhorrence, that held the mercury up. This experiment was a landmark in the history of science. It not only confirmed the existence of atmospheric pressure, but also led to the SI unit of pressure being named the Pascal in his honor. He also formulated Pascal's principle, which states that pressure applied to a confined fluid is transmitted undiminished in all directions. This principle is the foundation of modern hydraulics, powering everything from car brakes to heavy construction equipment. So, we have a mathematical prodigy, a groundbreaking physicist, and a pioneering inventor. But around the age of 31, Pascal's life took a dramatic turn. On the night of November 23, 1654, he had an intense, mystical religious experience that he called a night of fire. He was so profoundly moved that he wrote a short, fervent note about the experience, sewed it into the lining of his coat, and kept it with him for the rest of his life. This event marked a major shift in his focus. While he never completely abandoned science, he dedicated much of his remaining years to philosophy and theology. He became deeply associated with Jansenism, a movement within Catholicism that emphasized original sin, human depravity, and the necessity of divine grace. This period gave rise to his most famous philosophical work, the Pensées, which means thoughts. The Pensées wasn't a finished book, but a collection of fragments and notes that he was compiling for a grand defense of the Christian faith. It was published after his death, and it contains some of the most profound and quoted ideas in Western philosophy. He explores the human condition, seeing humanity as caught between the infinite and the nothing, between misery and greatness. He famously wrote, "Man is but a reed, the most feeble thing in nature. But he is a thinking reed. Our greatness," he argued, "lies not in our physical strength, but in our awareness of our own fragile existence and our place in the vast universe." Within the Pensées, we find his most famous argument, known as Pascal's wager. It's not a proof of God's existence, but a pragmatic argument for believing. He frames it like a coin toss. If you bet that God exists and you're right, you gain eternal happiness and infinite reward. If you're wrong, you lose nothing. But if you bet that God does not exist and you're wrong, you face an infinite loss. Therefore, he argued, the only logical and rational choice is to wager on God's existence. The wager has been debated by philosophers for centuries, but it remains a powerful and provocative thought experiment about faith, reason, and risk. Tragically, Blaise Pascal's life was cut short. He suffered from poor health for most of his life. dealing with intense migraines and chronic pain. His condition worsened in his final years, and he died in Paris in 1662, just 2 months after his 39th birthday. An autopsy later revealed serious problems with his stomach and brain. In just 39 years, he left an indelible mark on so many fields of human knowledge. He was a man who embodied the tension between the logic of science and the passion of faith. He showed us that the same mind that can design a calculator and measure the weight of the air can also ponder the deepest mysteries of the soul. Pascal's legacy is all around us. It's in the programming languages named after him, in the hydraulic lifts that raise our cars, and in the mathematical theories that power our digital world. But perhaps his most enduring legacy is his profound insight into the human heart. He understood that the heart has its reasons, which reason does not know. He reminds us that being human is about embracing both our incredible capacity for thought and our deep, often unexplainable, need for meaning, purpose, and faith. Blaise Pascal wasn't just a genius. He was a thinking reed, and his thoughts continue to challenge and inspire us hundreds of years later. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the incredible life of Blaise Pascal. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want to explore more fascinating minds from history, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us create more content like this. Let me know in the comments below which part of Pascal's life you find most inspiring. Until next time, keep thinking.